We both know a podcast listener is not revenue. An email subscriber is not revenue. A webinar attendee is not revenue. All of those things, they're opportunities. Sales is what turns those opportunities into money in your bank account. Hello and welcome to the Inner Game of Entrepreneurship podcast. I'm your host, Sarah, and we are here today with episode 3 of what I have started calling the Mid-Year Revenue Rescue series. So if you set a big, sexy, hairy, scary income goal back in January, and now it's June, and you are nowhere near your goal, and you're not sure how you're going to get back on track, this series is all about exactly what you need to do starting right now and through the second half of the year to get yourself back on track. So if you haven't listened to the first 2 episodes in the series, go back and do that now. I'll wait. Welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. All right. We're going to get into task number 3. In the first one, we got clear on why we were in this position. And then we cut all of our distractions. And now it's time to increase volume. So now that we've cut all the distractions, we got to get into what the actual problem is. We've already decided that you're not going to be reinventing the wheel right now. You're not going to distract yourself with going into, I need a better offer. I'm going to totally change my offer. I'm going to launch something brand new. I'm going to change all my messaging. I'm going to do my branding again. I need a new funnel. I need to redo my website. No, you are not getting distracted. You're not doing anything but sales activities, revenue generating activities. And none of those things are really the problem. The problem is a volume problem. There is not a high enough volume of people moving through your sales system. Now, that may reveal a secondary problem, which is that you don't actually have a sales system. And if that's the case, you have to solve that immediately. Maybe you should book a CEO direction intensive with me and we can knock that out in an afternoon and get that fixed. You need to have a sales system for people to be moving through. We want to be clear. If I'm saying increasing volume, what are we increasing the volume of, the volume into, right? When I say volume here, I'm not talking about increasing your number of followers or increasing likes or comments. I'm talking about increasing sales conversations or people moving through your sales system. Volume anywhere else right now is not going to help you. Because if last month 100 people watched your content and nobody took any next steps, possibly because no one knew what steps to take or what to do next, then 1,000 people seeing your content next month isn't necessarily going to help. Today's episode is really important because I'm really going to talk about the difference between marketing activity and sales activity. And I think this is something that a lot of people are not quite clear on. We need sales activity, right? So I just want to say that again. If 100 people saw your content this month, but nobody did anything else, they didn't DM you, they didn't opt into anything, they didn't book a call, they did nothing, they just saw the content. And you're thinking, if I get 10 times more people to see my content, then I'm going to make more sales. Well, what's 1,000 people seeing the content going to do? If 100 people saw the content and didn't move anywhere, then what's 1,000 people seeing the content going to do? That may not really be the issue. You cannot hit a bigger revenue goal with the same volume of sales activity. If you want to make 3x, 5x, 10x more in the second half of the year than you did in the first half, then something about the volume of your sales activity has to change. You need more direct sales conversations, more follow-ups, more direct invitations, more visibility on your offer, more sales opportunities. You are not going to get dramatically different outcome from the same inputs. We got to get more volume in the sales activities. So what I want to really get into is, do you have a sales strategy or do you have a marketing strategy? Do you have sales activities or do you have marketing activities? I've had conversations with a few of my clients recently who told me they have a big revenue goal for quarter 3 and quarter 4. And then they went on to tell me about how they had created this big plan about doing Yap videos on social every day or creating videos for YouTube every week. And I was like, okay, all of this is marketing activity. But right now, if you have a big revenue goal, what we need is sales. I don't want you spending any time on a new YouTube series if you have a big revenue goal. That's back to the cutting all distractions things. Time to get ruthless. Now is not the time to be creating a YouTube series. It's time to be selling. Visibility is not selling. Marketing is not selling. And this is where people get stuck, right? Because they're posting every day. They're making reels. They're recording podcasts. They're writing newsletters, and they're calling that selling. But selling is invitations, offers, conversations, follow-ups. You can be highly visible, but not be selling at all. You can be highly visible, making educational content, lifestyle content, behind the scenes content, but you're not selling anything. You could be highly visible and barely selling. You can be highly visible and making these really flaccid softball, like if this sounds like something you're interested in and you'd like to have a conversation with me about maybe whether or not we could work together, then DM me and we can talk about it. The most softball shit ever. You're not selling. One of my clients recently was like, oh, so I should be saying more like, if this sounds like something you might be interested in, you're invited to get on a call with me. And I was like, no, you should be saying, if you're the person who has this problem, I am the number one person to help you solve it. And my offer is the number one place to get it done. Book a call with me today, right? You're telling them what to do. You are confidently, directly moving them to making a yes or no decision. So if you're not asking people directly to make a buying decision right now, then you're not selling. When somebody tells me they have a revenue goal, but then they go spend a whole day coming up with an elaborate marketing campaign that's basically all nurturing or all education, it's kind of abstract. I know that they're hiding because marketing feels safer than sales. Marketing is indirect. I always call it spray and pray. You can post content, you can update your website, you can record a podcast, and then you just sit back and wait for people to come to you. You're not risking any rejection directly. Sales requires someone to maybe say no to you to your face. That, for a lot of people, feels really uncomfortable. They want to hang something up. They want to like hang a flyer on a bulletin board and go home and wait for the phone to ring. That's not what sales is. Sales is walking right up to someone and saying, I think you're the right person for this offer that I have. Can I help you with this thing? Much more direct. And you're trying to get doors slammed in your face. You're trying to. You're courting the no. You're gamifying the no. You understand that you need a certain amount of people to say no to you in order to get to the yes, and you're going out of your way to get that number of no's that you need to get to the yeses. And that can feel really daunting, and you might want to skip it. But you cannot skip selling if you want to hit a revenue goal, especially if you don't have a huge following. But really, even with a big following, you got to directly be selling, right? You got to be like, there's a sale. It ends on Friday. Act now. The other issue when we talked in the last episode about cutting distractions is that marketing is creative, busy work that can feel like a lot of progress. You can spend 8 hours writing content, building funnels, designing graphics, planning launches, recording videos, and you can feel so productive and so creative and like you just made something so cool and maybe you even had fun, but you still have to put it out like a bottle in the ocean and just hope someone finds it and takes an action. And sales activity is often a lot less glamorous. It's sending the DM. It's sending the direct personal email to the person that you're interested in pitching. It's making a direct invitation. It's making the follow-up to the person who had a call with you a few months ago and never followed back up and asking for the sale. It is much more repetitive but it is also much more personal and much more intimate. And you actually have to put yourself out there. And so many people are like, I don't want to be salesy. If you're not selling, you don't have a business. You have to sell. It's not salesy to sell. It's just sales. Now, what a lot of people, we've talked about this before, is that you don't want to be non-consensual. You don't want to be coercive. But if to your core, you believe in your offer, and you believe that the thing that you're offering people is going to help them or make their life better and is something they actually need. You're not like asking them for spare change on the street. You're saying, hey, can I help you solve this huge problem in your life that only I can solve the way that I can solve it? Would you like to do that with me? Maybe they'll say no, but maybe they'll say yes. But you do have to have this much more personal, intimate conversation. And it also requires that you care about them. That you're not just doing it to be like, this is why people don't like cold outreach. And I'm not a big fan of cold outreach. I'm a much more consensual salesperson. But cold outreach sucks because it's so impersonal. And you can tell the person who's cold pitching you doesn't know you, and they don't know anything about your business, and they don't know that that you have this problem that they solve, and they don't know that you really need the help they're offering. They're just hoping for it. That's not what I'm advocating for. But if you have an existing relationship with someone in your audience and you directly reach out to them and say, I'm thinking about you for this offer. I think you are exactly the right person for this. Would you like to hear more about it? Would you like to get on a call with me? Can I send over the page for it? Yes, you're risking more. You're risking a direct no. And for my rejection sensitive babies, we've got to build up this muscle. But if they say no, they're not saying you suck and you're going to fail at business and I hope you die in a fire. They're just saying, I don't need that problem solved right now, or I don't have any money to spend right now, or I'm already working with somebody right now. No, it doesn't mean anything other than like, they're not interested right now. That's okay. So you must be taking the sales actions. A lot of people who are listening to this right now, maybe even you, are thinking that like, you know that this is right, but it doesn't really apply to you because deep down you think that good marketing should eliminate the need for sales activities. People kind of secretly believe if my marketing was good enough, people would just buy. If my videos would just go viral, then people would just buy. And at scale, sometimes that's true. Not always, but sometimes. But for smaller businesses, revenue is heavily driven by conversations, relationships, direct follow-ups, and direct invitations. So you might be kind of deep down hoping that marketing is going to do the sales's job for you. You need to be doing both. You need to be, and right now you really need to primarily be selling. We said last week, ABS, always be selling. You've got to be selling. Marketing creates awareness. Sales converts that awareness into customers. A podcast listener is not revenue. How many of you are listening to this right now and have listened to every single podcast I've ever done you've never bought from me? We both know a podcast listener is not revenue. An email subscriber is not revenue. A webinar attendee is not revenue. All of those things, they're opportunities. Sales is what turns those opportunities into money in your bank account. Sales is what turns those audience members into customers in your business. So I want you to make sure that if you have a big revenue goal for the second half of the year, that you're focusing on the metrics that matter, which means you're no longer focusing on followers, views, opens, clicks, none of that. You're focused on how many offers did I make this month, right? How many direct invitations did I make this month? What is the number of follow-ups I sent this month? What is the number of direct sales conversations I had with people? Those are the numbers to focus on. You've got to increase the volume of your invitations, increase the number of times you're pitching. Back in April, when I had that unexpectedly very large launch for my Business Accelerator program, that wasn't even really a launch. It was a single ad with no sales page that invited people to DM me. I was talking to maybe 20 people a day. I have never had so high a volume of sales conversations in my life. And I was closing cold leads into a $2,500 program in the DMs with no sales page, just conversations. And all I was doing was asking people, right? They already knew they wanted to talk to me. They DM'd me from the ad. I didn't reach out to them. I wasn't cold pitching anyone. They had to click the button on the ad to DM me. And there was a little automation that they had to click that said, yes, I'm interested in information about the program. And I just voice noted people back and I said, hey, I'm so excited to hear from you. Tell me a little bit about what you want to do. And then I opened up a conversation. People would tell me about the business they were trying to start, and I would ask follow-up questions. Where are you at with it? How's it going? What's been your biggest challenge so far? What's the help that you think you need? What are your goals within the next blah, blah, blah? And as we got into the conversation, I either knew, yes, this program will help you reach your goals, or no, it won't. If I couldn't help them, I said, this is not the right program for you, but maybe you should go talk to this person, or maybe you should do this first and then come back to me later. If I could help them, I said, this program is actually exactly right for you. Would you like me to send you over the information? And they would say yes. I would send the information. They would sign up. I also had a lot of conversations that were really weird, and I had a handful of people that cussed me out, and I had a handful of people that tried to hit on me. But whatever, I made the sales that I wanted to make. But I just increased the volume of direct conversations I was having with people. And I got genuinely curious about the people I was talking to. I asked them questions. If I felt like my offer could solve their problem, I invited them to the offer. That was it. That was the whole sales strategy for the entire launch. And I made $50,000 in sales in like 24 days. Direct sales activity is the thing to focus on. Increase the volume of sales conversations and direct invitations. If you've been marketing, then you already have people watching. You have people reading. You have people engaging. You have people listening. There are people interested in you and your business. You're just probably not making enough direct invitations into your work. So if you're on social every day anyway, just make sales content. So in every single piece of content you're putting out, you are directly telling people about your offer, who it's for, why is it different, why should they buy it, what are the features, when do they need to sign up, how much does it cost? Just talk about the offer. And at the end of every piece of content you make, you tell them to take a sales action. For every piece of content you make, you should be asking yourself, could someone consume this piece of content and never have to make any decisions? If yes, it is probably marketing content and not sales content. If the piece of content requires them to decide whether they are buying, applying, booking, enrolling, filling out an application, somehow moving forward, somehow moving off the app, then you are in sales territory. If they have to decide, yes, I'm going to take this next step, or no, I'm not, then it's sales content. Every piece of sales content leads someone one of two ways. Yes, I'm doing the next thing. No, I'm not. Your content needs to be supporting people in taking that next step action. And then the actual sales is usually happening in DMs, applications, sales calls, follow-up conversations, direct invitations, right? You're moving from they say, yes, I'm interested, or they fill out the application. Maybe if it's a lower ticket thing, they're going to a page on your website and they're just straight up buying. They're commenting a word, they're getting the page, they're buying. They're commenting the word, you're DMing them and saying, hey, I noticed that you commented this word. Tell me about blah, blah, blah. What's going on? How can I help? Getting them into a conversation. And then once you know that it's a good fit, make the direct invitation. I would love to have you. I'd love to work with you. I think we're a great fit. I think you're really going to love this. Would you like the checkout page? Right? I always ask for consent. I'm not pushing it on people if they don't want it. I make them say yes every single step of the way. Not make them, but I invite them to say yes every step of the way. But I'm also not being so passive and so soft that they can just float away. Because if we're not guiding them toward being decisive, they will probably default toward inaction. We need to catalyze them into a yes or no, right? This is becoming much more of a sales lesson than I anticipated, but I hope it's helpful for you. So if you're not actively moving people from passively consuming your content into making a decision, then that's why you could be posting every day for 6 months and not make any sales. You are generating awareness, but maybe not creating enough buying opportunities. And I would say that most people dramatically overestimate how much they are selling. So I want you to really ask yourself, like, how many offers, like how many direct, would you like to come work with me, have you made this month? How many people have you directly invited into your offer? How many sales conversations have you had? And how many follow-ups have you sent? That's all actual sales activity. And what you might be realizing as you think about this is that the number is a lot lower than you would like, right? And you might be having an aha right now that's like, oh, well, this is why I'm not hitting my revenue goal. The number of people that I'm having actual sales interactions with is nearly zero. That's not going to work. The fastest way to increase your revenue is to increase the number of opportunities for people to buy. So I want you to look at the offer that you've decided you're going to focus on for next month, for Q3, for the rest of this month, and just ask yourself, what happens if I simply double the number of people who hear about this offer? What happens if I double the number of conversations I'm having with people about this offer? What happens if I double my follow-up frequency? So these are the things I want you to be considering. A lot of people are really weird about following up. Y'all, follow up. Everybody's busy. People have ADHD. We get weird and we're like, oh, if they didn't buy right away, then they're not interested, but you don't ever really know what's going on. I have directly reached out to people who came to a webinar and seemed really interested, and then they didn't buy. And I just kept thinking about them. And I was like, gosh, that's really the right person for this offer. And directly reached out and was like, hey, I just want you to know I'm still thinking about you. And I still really think this is the right offer for you. Have you been considering joining? And people are like, oh my gosh, it means so much to me that you took the time to follow up with me. Yes, I'm still interested. Here's what's going on with me. People are usually, if they're interested, quite flattered that you took the time to follow up with them and check in with them and ask if they had any more questions. And sometimes people are like, I had something come up with my finances. I need a different payment plan. And then you just give it to them. Easy. Don't be weird about following up. It's not weird. I mean, don't be a stalker, but it's okay to follow up. So here are your journal prompts for this week. And if you're on my email list, I'm sending these out to you. So make sure you're on the email list. You go to intuitiveedgecoaching.com/pod sign up and you can get on the list. So here are the questions. What is my current sales system? And is there anywhere that it needs adjusting? And if you're not sure, then another way to look at that is where in the pathway, what is my current pathway from stranger to client, right? That's your sales system, the pathway that people go from stranger to client. Where in the pathway from stranger to client am I losing people right now? What can I change right away to fix that problem? Y'all, sometimes it's really your link in bio. You have a link tree that has 72 things on it and none of them are a sales thing. One link maybe. It's the link to the thing you're selling. You send them to a page and it's like a really convoluted web page that doesn't have a direct sales offer on it. There's no checkout page, right? Like, where am I losing people? Really clear. Is it in my call to action? Is it where I'm sending them? Is the process too complicated? Where in my pathway from stranger to sale am I losing people? What can I change right away to fix that problem? The next question, which past leads, past inquiries, or almost clients need to hear from me this week? What if you just went back to everybody you've ever had a sales call with that didn't buy and told them you have something open? What might happen? What is one action I can take in the next 24 hours that would create more buying opportunities for my current following? My eyeball's doing something weird. How many direct invitations into my offer can I commit to making in the next 30 days? Could you commit to 10 invitations a day? 1 invitation a day every day for 30 days? 100 invitations a day for the next 30 days? How many direct invitations can you commit to making for the next 30 days? What would happen if I committed to selling on my primary social platform every single day for the next 90 days? What do I think would happen? Those are your questions. That is our episode for today. I hope that this was helpful for you. If you are feeling really overwhelmed, if you feel like you need help with your quarter 3 mid-year revenue rescue, if you need help coming up with your plan for the second half of the year, and you would like to work with me one-on-one, you can book a CEO Direction Intensive. It is a 90-minute one-on-one session. The way it works is you're going to fill out a form that you're going to tell me all about what's going on in your business, all the ideas you have, all of the places that you feel stuck, all the things you're overthinking, all the things you're struggling with, all the decisions you're struggling to make. We get together for 90 minutes on Zoom. We clear it all out. We get very, very focused on your most profit forward steps. We make you a plan that you can actually stick to for the next 90 days to 6 months. Sometimes people have left with a year-long plan, and then you go implement. You get 2 weeks of Voxer support on the back end of that so that you can ask me questions as you are integrating the call and as you're starting to implement the plan. It's $1,500. I have Klarna Afterpay, all the third-party payment plans available at checkout. I'm going to put a link for the CEO Direction Intensive in the show notes. But if that is something that you need where you're like, there's no way I'm going to make this plan by myself. I just know that I'm not going to take the time, or I have too many ideas and I'm not really sure what I should focus on or where I should be putting all of my effort. That is something I would love to help you with. I will loan you my strategy brain for a couple hours and we will get it figured out together. So I will put the link for that in the show notes. I hope that this was helpful for you. I'd love to hear your comments. Okay, love you, bye.
That's our episode for today. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this. I know there are so many things that you could be doing with your day, so many things you could be listening to, and it means so much that you are here in this community. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment, share it on social media, and tag me at Intuitive Edge Coaching. Share it with a biz bestie who you think needs to hear it and will appreciate it. And take a moment to to subscribe, and to leave a 5-star review wherever you are listening. It helps me grow this show, and it helps us grow and sustain this brilliant community of entrepreneurs dedicated to doing the inner work. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, love you, bye.